Today I'm going to be doing the speed paint and explaining the process along the way. I'm going to be using the lasso painting technique with this one, which is super useful. So let's get started. Alright, here we have the blank canvas. When I'm doing speed paints, I usually like to just paint right away instead of doing a line art first. And another thing that I like to do is to just paint with random colors on the canvas to get a better sense of the colors that I'm going to be using for the painting. So here I am painting with some blues, greens, some whites for the clouds, and I am painting this with a custom brush that I've created. So once that is done, I can just transform this image and play around with it, see what composition works better, and then get to the details. I want to have trees in this painting, so that's where the lasso tool comes in handy. Now I can just go ahead and paint these trees with a brush tool, but I'll just make selections for these trees and then use a big brush to color them. This gives me a much better control on the colors and texture that I'm going to be painting within the selected area of the trees. Now I'm going to make some more selections using the lasso tool and painting different colors within these selections. Now notice that when we paint with the lasso selections, the edges look a bit too clean. So we can just roughen up those edges using our brushes so we can have much better edge control. For example, for the trees and for the plants, I want to keep that brushwork on the edges. The lasso tool technique is super helpful, but it doesn't mean that you'll have to paint the whole painting with the same technique. You can always mix things up. So if you're painting this landscape, you can do a mixture of lasso tool and just painting directly with the brushes like you normally do. The lasso tool is really helpful in blocking out the main shapes, and if you want to explore different colors and texture within a selected area, it gives a lot of control over that as well. You can go crazy with the textures and colors with a big brush without having to worry about disturbing the overall silhouette or the shape of the object that you're painting. Once the bigger shapes are selected, you can always go back, select the brush tool, and add a lot of detail and texture wherever it's needed. Now I'm using my brush tool to add details here and there, some leaves around the trees, some details on the ground, branches for the trees, stuff like that. I'm also painting some textures on the trees and refining the shapes of the leaves on these trees. By the way, the brushes that I'm using here are all custom built. In fact, I've been working on some custom brushes. They're not available just yet, but if you're interested in checking them out once they're available, just go to my Gumroad, add your email address and subscribe to it, and you'll be notified once they're available. Here I am using a combination of 2 to 3 brushes from that same set. The one that I'm using the most, I call it the stylization brush because it gives a lot of blocky random shapes when you paint with it. That's the same brush that I used for blocking in the main colors at the start of this painting. And it's pretty cool for drawing foliage and stuff. I've also added some distant trees in this painting, choosing a darker green for this one and keeping the color close to the sky since there is a lot of atmospheric perspective involved. Next, we're gonna be adding a cool character in the middle. How can we just create a landscape with no character. We gotta sell the scale, right? So I'm using the same lasso tool technique to make a selection of that character. The great thing is that I can add or subtract from this selection as well if needed. See, once the shape is selected, I just added some random brush stroke in that selection and it gave me some really cool shapes within that selection. I love these kinds of happy accidents. Again, you can always go back and add more details using the normal brush. Here I am just experimenting with some color dodge to add some light on this character and to give it a different color so that it pops on this green background and it becomes kind of like a focal point on this painting. I also added this color dodge on some of the other areas of this painting to suggest sunlight, and I think it looks pretty cool. I'm thinking of adding some other characters on this piece as well. Maybe some enemies that our protagonist here has slain. So let's see how that looks. I'm going to be using the same technique for these dudes as well. I think it turned out pretty good. Lastly, I'm just going to zoom in on different parts of this painting, add a little bit more detail, refine some shapes, and just add the final touches. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the rest of the process. If you like this video, don't forget to check out some of the other speed paint videos on my channel. I'm sure you'll find them helpful. Alright then, I'll see you in another video. Take care.